Good evening and welcome to Equine Essentials. I'm your host, Gray Parks, Equine Nutritionist for ProTrition Feed. Tonight I want to talk to you about body condition scoring. Body condition scoring is an important tool that helps you to monitor your horse's calorie intake so that you know how much your horse is eating compared to what your horse probably should be eating. So there are certain parts of the horse's body that you want to pay particular attention to when you're body condition scoring, and it's very important to do this by feel. You can put your hands on the horse and tell how much of the horse is fat versus muscle versus bone, which is a very important part of this because photographs in particular can mislead you when it comes to trying to determine how much fat there is on your horse's body. So going from nose to tail, the parts of the horse's body we want to pay particular attention to when body condition scoring are the crest of her neck, behind her shoulder, over her withers, down her spine, her hips, and over her tail head. And as we touch her, we're going to score each one of these parts of her body from 1 to 9, with 1 being extremely emaciated and 9 being morbidly obese. Ideally, I want to be somewhere between a 4 and a 6. So as I look over her neck, I can feel that there's a little bit of fat starting to accumulate along the crest of her neck. Her withers don't have a lot of fat on them. She doesn't really have a lot of wither, but she does have quite a bit of fat behind her shoulder, as you can see from how she jiggles when I poke her. Down her spine, she's mostly flat with a little bit of a crease. And I can feel her ribs, but it takes a little bit of effort for me to feel them. I really can't feel the bones at either end of her pelvis, but she doesn't have much fat accumulated over her tail head. So on a scale of 1 to 9, I would score this mare at about a 6.5. I said ideally I want them to be from 4 to 6, so she's a little fatter than I would like for her to be. She's a very easy keeper. However, she's being bred this spring, so I'm okay with her being a little bit heavy because fatter mares are generally more fertile mares. We're going to look at 2 other horses tonight that are slightly different in their body types and have different challenges when it comes to assessing their body condition. So this filly, as you can see, is considerably younger. With young horses, we're looking at them a little bit differently, because we want to keep them on that lower end of 4.5 to 5 versus say a 6 or 6.5 that could be acceptable for an adult mare. And because of their body types, sometimes we can be misled by just looking at them. Getting our hands on them is very important. So as I run my hands over this 10-month-old filly, there's no fat really accumulating over the crest of her neck or over her withers. She has a little tiny bit of fat behind her shoulder. She's flat over her spine, and her ribs are very easily felt. And if she were a little bit less fuzzy, then you could probably even see a hint of a couple of them. I can actually feel her hip bone, but not the back of her pelvis. And she doesn't really have any fat over her tail head. So I would score her right out of 5, which is where I want her to be at this stage of her development. Too much weight on a growing skeleton can predispose your youngster to not only metabolic but also skeletal disorders. So we want to make sure to keep them on the lean side of healthy. Our third and final horse to body condition score tonight is Ariel. Ariel is a 16-year-old Arabian broodmare, and she is actually the dam or mother of the 2 fillies that we saw earlier in this video. Now, Ariel's body type is also one that could fool you if you don't have your hands on her. Because she's very well sprung in the ribs and has had 5 foals, she sometimes can look a lot heavier than she actually is in reality. So as I assess her hands-on, she has just a little bit of fat starting to accumulate over the crest of her neck. She has no fat over her withers, a little bit behind her shoulder. She's flat over her spine, and I can easily feel her ribs. I can also palpate the front of her pelvis, but not the back, and she doesn't have any fat accumulated over her tailbone. So I would score Ariel here at a body condition score of a 5, which is perfect. Now she is a broodmare, so if I could get a little more weight on her, I would be okay with that too. I certainly don't want her to be any thinner, however. So as we talk about body condition scoring tonight, we've talked about using a scale of 1 to 9 and wanting most horses to fall between a 4 and a 6. If you find your horse on the low end of the body condition score scale, say below a 4, then you want to assess their diet, add calories, and potentially have your vet examine the horse to see if there's an underlying medical condition causing the horse to lose weight. For horses that are over a 6 without any real explanation, then you want to restrict their calories, which may involve reducing their pasture access, using a grazing muzzle, or cutting down their feed from a regular grain to a ration balancer. If you ever have any questions about your horse's condition and how to help them gain or to lose weight, you're always welcome to reach out to me, to your other ProTrition sales specialists, or your local stores for assistance. Thanks for joining me for this Equine Essentials episode. We'll see you again next month.